Aaron Dunham, my brother. Man, it's so cool to have you on the mat. I have to be together with you, and you hit me up. Was it this week or yeah? I want to be in town, so it's so cool, man.
Been a long time coming. You know, it's little short notice trip, but it's always good to get it in.
Came with the family.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We're joking too. You've been a brown belt for, James, you and James Ulaw, versus Steve.
Yep.
You're brown belts together.
It's a great picture of us together that I love. You know, we look like we're getting after it, but still working through it.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up, Aaron?
So I grew up between the Tampa area and LA. So
so you're from Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So lived out in LA a few times back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Went to school around here, not too far from here, Walter Reed Middle School.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
what area in LA?
So that's like North Hollywood, like the whole arts district.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a very different place back then, but it's come up a lot.
So you've been going back and forth like almost your whole life?
Yeah. So when my parents divorced, we ended up making the move to LA, and it was a good spot, a nice change of pace.
Okay.
Yeah.
To go into LA.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I probably lived out here like 4 or 5 times altogether. The last time I was here was 2017 when I lived out here.
2017,
yeah.
5 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's about right. Yeah. I remember I was trying to convince you to move back to LA before the pandemic and all that.
I think it was 2019.
2019?
I was like, I don't know about all that. It's kind of like you could see the writing on the wall, like something was bound to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had no just how things were going to be closed up and how it was going to be so different in the different states, right? Like we went to visit Florida when it was like maybe 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, but when things were still kind of locked down here.
Yeah.
And it was just like there's no closures over there. Everything was wide open.
Yeah, it didn't really exist. I mean, we had like a full month of like a lockdown.
Right.
But Florida does it different. People were social distancing on boats.
Boats.
Just going out there, catching waves and stuff. But I think each state kind of did their own thing. I don't really know how to say like who handled it better. Right. It's just different.
Yeah, but you were telling me like the movies were open. It was like the first year. I was like, what? I thought the movies were pretty much open the whole time except for the beginning, right?
That's right. It's kind of hard because it was such a short period of time for us, right? Like, yeah, people were still wearing masks and things like that, but it kind of got back to as close to normal as you'd expect, Whereas here, I think it seems pretty chill now, right?
Yeah, now it's chill. Yeah, it's pretty kind of back to normal.
Yeah. I expected, I think right before, I think they changed the laws on the planes where you don't have to wear a mask.
Recently, yeah.
I was worried if I was going to have to get on a flight and,
wear a mask. Oh, you don't have to wear a mask now?
No.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it just seems like it's back to normal.
Normal, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. But, each state, like I said, handled it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And it was cool to just see the crew and do the usual,
Yeah. And it kind of worked out too, right, with staying there during all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I don't know, man. Like, I really didn't see much of what. It's kind of hard to compare it to the last time I was here. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to kind of acknowledge, I want to take the chance that you're here to do a podcast with you, right? We've been talking about it for some time.
Absolutely.
Or like the next time you come out, for sure. But just to kind of acknowledge the work you did on just getting TACFIT.com, switching it over from RMAX International.
That's right.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Getting that, that monster kind of over, right? And I remember you're one of the first people I called.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no.
It seems like a lifetime ago in a way.
It does. I've seen it grow so much, and it's an exceptional system.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of want to talk a little bit about my jiu-jitsu journey and kind of, how it kind of intersected with TACFIT, right? So I think the first time I ever got into mats was in 2004, right? Like a friend of mine was telling me, hey, there's these guys that wrestle in the garage, like a big like warehouse, and they just strangle each other. I think I was like 16. I was like, all right, let me go check it out. And
you were 16.
Yeah, I was 16 years old, and
this is here in LA.
No, this was in
Florida.
Exactly.
Okay.
And all I did at that point in time was just lift weights and try to chase girls, which I think that's what you do at 16. And it was Eduardo de Lima's school, right?
Vail, yeah.
Yes. You know, that was like the only school that was around. So I popped in.
I think he was the first Gracie Barra outside of Brazil.
Okay, I think that makes sense to
I don't
me.
know what, yeah, and then he was when I first went to Rio, he was like, he would teach the fundamentals and stuff.
Yeah, he's
hilarious. Yeah, he's
if you train with people from Brazil, you know what it's like. You know, so first class, I didn't know what I was doing. It was just really like an open mat.
Yeah,
and one of my good friends, his wife, got me in a triangle, right? Like just immediately, and I stood up, and everybody was like, "Stop!" And I didn't understand what they were worried about, and they thought I was just gonna body slam the wife and drop. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. Like I thought that's how you got out, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, they'll unravel or something like that.
You're getting choked. You're like, let's see what I can do.
Yeah, maybe I'm just gonna stand and they'll get tired.
Yeah.
Anyways, we went back down and she just choked the life out of me, and it kind of stuck around, and I was interested, but I was just chasing other things, and then I had moved back to LA again. So I bounced around. I was there in 2000, 2001 to 2002, 2003 or so. And then I moved back in 2008. And then I was living with my girlfriend, and I don't remember what had happened, but I just kind of had this drive to do martial arts. I'd started doing boxing. I liked that. I think I'd seen like The Ultimate Fighter season 2 with Rashad Evans. I was like, oh, this is cool. Black people are doing this too. It's something I should do as well.
It's funny, right? Because it's so funny. Yeah.
A long time.
Right.
And then I was doing Muay Thai and like Eagle Rock, like a little cardio thing. And I just thought I was going to be the next Anderson Silva. I saw him fight and I was like, oh, that's going to be me. And then when I moved back to Florida, there just really wasn't a lot in the Muay Thai space, just further deeper into Florida, you might find that. And I went back to Eduardo's school. So it's like 2009 and just started training. And it's so interesting to think about, from my limited time and exposure, how much jiu-jitsu has changed. I can only imagine from when you started doing it back in the day, right? Like the schools are warmer, maybe more tolerant,
more professional, I
guess.
Yeah.
There was a friend of mine sent me this video. It's just this meme or something this guy had done. It was showing the comparison of rolling with your jiu-jitsu instructor before and today.
Right. Back in the 90s, 2000s,
exactly.
Early 2000s too. I think it started to shift maybe when they brought the Worlds over here, like 2007, 8, 9, 10. That's when things started to, I think, started to shift.
What do you
more
think
professional?
That did? Like, how did it make that shift? Like, why was it so different?
Because something had to change, something had to change. Like I did a lot of like courses and stuff, and it was still in the Fight Club days. So I was trying to make this like a good place, for the community. And it was kind of like the karate days back in this, 60s, 70s, whatever. It was like hardcore, Fight Club. And then what saved the martial arts industry was the Karate Kid. Because then they showed, it's much more than just fighting, but all the character development things, and same thing for jiu-jitsu. Anybody that has done jiu-jitsu, that's the biggest things that they get out of it,
Yeah.
Instead of it just being like UFC or Valutu fighting, right?
I think we got the message a little bit later,
right.
Everybody else,
and so that was the progression. It got proven. It had every step had its purpose, right? It got proven in the early or in mid 90s, whatever, late 90s, 2000s, that jiu-jitsu works, right?
Right.
And it's amazing. And then whatever it was, there was that time, right? It got put down into the, off of TV and stuff, but the stuff was legit, right? And it kept growing, and then that was the next step. That next evolution was to make it more professional, right?
Yeah,
where people can access it.
Right, warmer. It was. I was kind of just joking, saying like we got the memo late because we were still pretty like intense. You know what I mean? It was like you earned your spot, kind of being there.
No, it was very tribal, very Fight Club, really.
Right. You took you licked your wounds and you left. There wasn't like the same sort of guidance. We're like, oh, you're a white belt and you suck and it's okay. It was like bad to be a white belt. Like, oh, get that white belt out of here. And you just kind of found your
you got abused, yeah.
Right? And, you know, it was funny because, like, I grew up, like, I never asked my instructor to roll or a black belt. I just sat around, and if they were interested, they came and we trained and stuff like that. But I really developed some great friendships and relationships there. Some of my favorite people are people that I've met on the mats. I mean, like, you know, different people even out here. And it's interesting how it kind of shapes and molds your life once you're exposed to it. You know, I don't think people think about it in that way. And one of the things that I always loved about the Gracie Barra sort of stance was, you know, jiu-jitsu for everyone. And, you know, to me, it's like, I could see that, right? Like it is available to everyone. Is it for everyone? I mean, not necessarily,
right.
You know, especially depending on your background and where you've come from. Like for me, being a larger guy, like I knew I was just going to get my butt kicked just from sun up to sundown. And I was ready to embrace that and, you know, level up, get better, improve my skills. And that's what I love about it, you know, like 12 years later.
Yeah, you're talking about that. It was like a TikTok video, right?
That's right.
The instructor from like the '90s to now. You know, like you ask somebody the black belt a question, he's like, "You don't even talk to me. Like, you know, how dare you talk to me, right? Something like that." And like, you know,
did I say that one to you?
Maybe, you know, but it was like floating around, and the guy, you know, even like gets smacked, whatever, in the back of the head, or kicks him. Yeah,
after asking him
you talking about how dare you talk to me? And like kicks him in the corner. And then now it's like he gets down on the mat, shows him the techniques, and of course, hey,
very different. I think it's what made us good, though, right? Like the tough love, and could we be? I mean, for me, it kind of laid the foundation of respect and sort of,
for sure.
You know,
it was valuable. You know, the stuff that was being taught.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you know, was it wrong to treat it? No, that's life, right?
But even in the old martial arts movies,
right.
Whenever you were the gaijin, the guy from, it wasn't all warm and hugs. It was, you earned your spot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it made us a certain way, and I think it made us tougher. And there's nothing wrong with the way it was, right?
Right.
But we can access more people like this for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna reach further, and it's gonna grow. I gotta imagine everybody sort of has like a trial by fire sort of story where you get to the stuff stops rolling downhill, and you get to be at the top of it, right? Because I think for anybody that hasn't trained jiu-jitsu, you know, I think what we love about movies and action movies and adventure movies is the build up, the climb, the leveling up, and you see the training montage. Well, in jiu-jitsu, you get that in real life.
Yeah.
Right? You get that in real life. You get to...
You're living that montage, right?
Yeah. And, you know, I think that's kind of what got me through the initial first couple of years, right? Because I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
Still probably have no clue what I'm doing, but, you know, it gets better over time, you know? And... As you know, you start to progress, you find your lane, you get the experience, and then you appreciate it more. You know, I remember when so I was getting beat by everybody, and that's just what happens. And then you're the worst, right? And then somebody else comes after you, and then you're a little bit less bad because there's someone else that's new, and then you start kind of moving up as you put in your time. And I remember I'd come in on an afternoon, I think it was like a Monday. And there's this massive new white belt who came in.
A big guy.
Yeah, he was 340, and he was a firefighter. So he had like condition, cardio for days, and was just mopping the floor with the other white belts. And I was like, okay, well, it's time to put up or shut up. And
represent.
You know, something.
Put it down.
Something. And, you know... He was too big for me to try to be stronger. So in guard we trust, you know, and just hit, you know, arm bar, omoplata, you know, triangle, like all the three brothers, just like one after the other in our roll. And I think that was the first bit where I saw that I earned a little bit of respect from Eduardo. He's like, okay. And then that was it. You know, I was like,
what was the nickname he had for you?
He called me Feta. So my nickname was Feta. So, to me,
Feta.
I'm an American, so I'm butchering it, but it's supposed to mean ferocious.
Feta. Fera. Yeah.
Okay.
Like animal, like beast, you know?
That was
the beast.
That's what I got. So he gave me that, and I was a little bit confused by it, right? You know, I'm training one day, and I think it was a vegetarian.
I remember him posting on Facebook, Fera, yeah.
Right? And I had just eaten lasagna or something, so I thought he was calling me cheesy. Like maybe I smelled cheesy or something.
Feta cheese.
Feta cheese. I thought it was just some sort of hazing thing, and I just kind of took it. I was like, all right, everybody's got a nickname. And then some of my partners were like, oh yeah, Big Cheese. So it's like there's a whole school of people that call me Feta. And
that's your Instagram name.
Ferocious cheese. Yeah, so it just kind of became an amalgamation of those two. And, you know, there's some, my old training partners from Gracie Baja call me Feta. And then my newer training partners just call me Big Cheese. So it's like, or just cheese. So that's what I'm known as, is this fermented milk. So, you know, so he explained it one day. Someone's like, oh yeah, Big Cheese. And I was like, I guess. And then Eduardo's like, no, it means ferocious, like the X-Men character Beast.
Yeah,
that's what it was. And I was like, oh, that's not a bad nickname.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where I got it from. It was that role. He was just like, that's the name for this guy.
You put it down for the team,
you know, and then continued.
Your technique was good because you were able to put it on like somebody much bigger than you.
Yeah, and that's what I love. I love the. Jiu-Jitsu is not a belief system, right? It's empirical. It's based on what you do, and then you can see whether you got it or not. And you know, it's interesting because my son, he's 9, and he's been training Jiu-Jitsu for like the last 3 years. He's a gray belt.
Amazing.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm proud of him.
Yeah,
it's his own thing, and I try to give him the space to do it and not hover, you know. And you know, we'll talk about how something went. He's like, oh, it doesn't work. I was like, well, it's your execution. You know, it's going to take time. It will work when you get better at it and you continue training and trying it, you know? So I personally love that about Jiu-Jitsu, and each belt kind of held something different for me, kind of as I was sort of realizing what was there and what wasn't there. I remember I was so proud when I got my blue belt, and this is, I think I was like 21 or something like that. And the thing you wanted to do, and I don't know if this is still a thing, but you wanted to fight your friends, and you wanted to show them how much skill you had, how much of a gap there was, and you knew this new art of jiu-jitsu, and I was a blue belt, and I thought that was like, hey, I really got a belt. And I remember this one guy told me, he said something to me that crushed my soul. He said, hey man, how long have you been training? I said, oh, a year and a half. He's like, cool, what's your rank? I said, a blue belt. He's like, oh. And how many belts are there? And I was like, well, there's white, there's blue, there's purple, brown, and black. He's like, oh, so you're only the second belt? And I was like, I guess. I'm only the second. I'm only one in. He's like, and they give you your white belt. And I was like, yeah. So it's like, so you only earned one belt. And I was just kind of like crushed because it meant so much to me. But then I started to see where.
That was somebody that didn't do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, someone who didn't train.
Right.
But like in the context of like, for me, I knew at that point I couldn't quit. And I think everybody knows, like, a blue belt is where people will often sail off into the sunset to never do jiu-jitsu again. Yeah. And for me, I was like, oh, that's never an option because I haven't accomplished anything, right? Like, I haven't. Like, sure, yes, and we can all talk about the facts of how far people actually progress to a certain extent. But to me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to hang out my belt and walk away and say I had something. And that was mainly because I trained with other people who didn't do jiu-jitsu. Like, I'd fight them, we'd, go in the grass somewhere, and there wasn't a big enough of a gap between the fight that left me satisfied. Like, I took way more damage than I needed to, right? Like, I'm trying to be gentle, and these guys are trying to squeeze my neck until it pops off because they don't know anything. I said, oh, well, I don't know anything if it's that close. This blue belt actually doesn't mean, in terms of actual skill and proficiency, I'm not that far off from someone who just starts. And I wanted that distance. I wanted that control, to know that I was able to accurately defend myself, protect myself, and not end up with a messed up neck. But I got the tap. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't really mean anything as far as that went by itself. And then, as I continued to getting purple belt, refining and stuff like that,
What was your first submission? Do you remember that?
I think it was a triangle. Yeah, my first submission that I got.
Do you remember the person you did it with? I always ask people that.
Okay. This is the story.
Because it's curious because people remember it.
Yes. So no, it was not.
Okay.
The first submission was an Americana. Yeah, I was training with a friend of mine who was a purple belt, and I met him at a party, and this is just kind of how it went, right? Like, they would just beat people up at parties, right? They'd be like, "You want to wrestle?" I was, you know. That's how it goes. It was kind of the pecking order thing.
Yeah. That was the beginning of my You just
hey, you want to come wrestle?
The living the carpet, you know. Yeah.
I was 220, 17, a larger dude, and that guy just messed me up. And that was after my first training session. And I think I came back in sometime later, and we were showing the technique. And then I think I got him in an Americana. But he was playing with me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain amount of playing where you go, oh, well, let me see how far this guy gets, and then it gets too far. So I don't know if that's like a true, real tap earned. I think it was more surprised. But the first one was a triangle, and it was on a guy who doesn't train anymore. You know, like he just disappeared. Yeah. First. Damn. It's been a minute.
And now I remember you always had that spider guard.
Yeah. I
remember that foot on the bicep, the control that you had.
I like it
because you lifted weights, right? You always like lifted heavy weights, and so you were able to really. But it was good technique. Yeah. But you also had the strength to really control somebody.
Well, I learned it incorrectly at first, and I developed a lot of grip strength from doing it wrong. So if I'm doing the spider or the lasso, I would actually, instead of locking it in against my leg, my arm would be out. There was no connection to my body. So I was having to
overcompensate with the grip.
Way more. I did develop, good size forearms and strength, but I rolled with one of my old training partners. I think his name was Papa, was his nickname. Everybody had a nickname. And he's like, hey, dude, you're doing that wrong. I was like, well, it's working. He's like, no. And he put my arm against my leg, and I was like, click. It just changed for me. And I was like, damn, I've been doing this wrong. But I still love that. I want to branch out, and I've been working on other things.
Like messing around today.
Yeah. Deep half.
Yeah. It was cool. See, you do different, because I remember that you did the close guard, you did the spider guard, and now you were like in all the positions, right?
Yeah, I like to move. I want to, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's easy to get one-dimensional, suffering from my own ego, wanting to win or not look bad, but I think you're limited when you do that. And my current instructor, man, that guy just always pushes me to be the next better version. You know what I mean? Jiu-Jitsu, like I said, could be for everybody, but what I love about it is adversity, right? It gives you adversity. And yes, there are people in life who haven't been exposed to adversity, but even the people who have, it gives you an adversity that you can overcome. It gives you an opportunity to improve, right? Like, we can't necessarily control the family that we were brought up in, or the economic circumstances of our family. So that is adversity, and people work through that. But what I love about jiu-jitsu is the adversity that you can comfortably, not necessarily comfortably, but like progressively work through and improve. Because you can get better. You can always get better in jiu-jitsu. Will you be the world champ? Not likely, because there's only a certain number of those, but you can always improve in relationship to yourself. And I think that's what I loved about training jiu-jitsu, and what keeps me coming back, never getting stagnant, seeing my training partners improve and get better experience, win tournaments. It's motivating.
Yeah, it never stops, right? It should never stop.
It never does.
Till the end. It should never stop. Yeah. You're always learning.
100%. So how I started doing the TACFIT piece. So after coming here and moving here, I was so excited, right? Because I had come and visit.
And you were lifting weights, and you're like, man, my lower back. You were in a lot of pain. And I'm like, just some of those funny, the little lower back, right? Lumbar movements.
A little bit different,
right? I was like, but do it when you sit down to take away the pain, and you started to do it, right? And it worked, right?
Made a huge difference. So one of the things that I think I always wanted to kind of get your view on, like, what is the future, for jiu-jitsu? I've seen how you've really integrated, points from the TACFIT system, from into flow, and things like that for recovery and warm up. It was funny. I was looking for you because when I arrived today, I was like, oh, I'm going to do my into flow. I do it every time before I get on the mats.
Nice.
And I think I got a couple of looks, but I think they were kind of used to it.
No, there's people that do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, and I just I think it was just like, who is this big brown dude with a beard?
The guys I know, like they're like, oh well, well, how does he know this?
Yeah, and you know, I'm a big fan, but it's so interesting. Like, do you see that being core to the future of jiu-jitsu? Like, how do you think it continues to grow?
Man, it's just, for me, like, it's all the right, well, for me, for anybody that does it, it's all the right stuff, right? And with my background, it's like the yin and the yang.
Right.
Like, I wish I would have known these things when I first started doing jiu-jitsu.
Right, 100%.
One, to be able to train more, train better, because you're recovering from, you know, overusing certain things from doing the same game, maybe.
Right.
But we're always like kind of in the same positions, you know, in that flexion position. And yeah, focusing on the recovery. Like, we're not focusing on the recovery. I remember when I was younger, I had this like high level, like athletic book, and they talked about recovery, and like, you know, as far as like, you know, going to the movies, doing different things just to kind of recover, like mentally and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But it wasn't this precise.
Right.
As like TACFIT has all the stuff built in, you know? So with the future, man, I just think that like you have to like learn this stuff, you know? You have to learn this stuff, and it's made my jiu-jitsu better. It's made me the teaching better, because it makes your jiu-jitsu better when you do it. Like
100%.
Makes your jiu-jitsu better, makes you better.
Yeah.
You know, it's so cool to see the guys, high level guys, like, you know, higher belted guys, like they were destroying themselves. Even Robert, right? Like, he wouldn't have made it to black belt.
Right.
He was so strong. He would just you know, bench press people off of him. But
Absolutely.
But because he did the mobility and did all the stuff, he was able to, like, you know, go all the way.
Right.
And make it a lifestyle. And so you see these other guys too, like, they used to use so much strength and they'd be wrecked. And now they understand, they're more aware, they're more intuitive, you know?
Right.
Because you learn the breathing.
Yep.
Which
Huge.
transfers over to the mat.
Mm-hmm.
You start to learn the structure, 7 key components.
Right.
Like, why do you keep the elbows in?
Right.
Why do you do this? Why do you do that? If you're on bottom, you're always trying to open up the guy's elbows.
Right.
If you're on top, you got to keep your elbows in. Why? So you connect to the last, so you have the correct structure, right?
And the ground coccyx alignment, right?
That's it. For posture. Yeah. And so you start to learn all the, you know, the posture. It's all the same things. And then you ingrain that in the system, because it's hard to ingrain it when somebody's trying to choke you or trying to do something to you.
You try to survive.
So it's really nice, right? And so it goes hand in hand. And I remember when Scott Sonnen first did his training with me, when he helped me for one of my UFC fights. He wrote this blog, and I learned so much. You know, the big thing, right, was I got thrown on my head, my neck was jacked up, and usually it's 4 to 6 weeks. They give you pain pills, talk about surgery, and he showed me some interflow movements. He's like, do these movements every time you have pain. He did an assessment with me, and I was able to heal myself in a week.
Yeah.
In a week.
Yeah. Wow.
I was like, what? I can heal myself with movement? That was crazy. It blew my mind, you know?
Because you want to do the opposite. You want to not move.
Right. And so a lot of doctors, right? Now, you know, if they're up to date, you know, they're doing stuff, they tell you to move. You know, I've had, you know, some of the guys, like Erica, right? Mm-hmm. One of the girls here, you know, she went to the doctor. The doctor put her arm in a sling, and that elbow still bothers her till today. Then she was going to go to the Philippines with Josiah for a tournament. And she hurt her elbow right before she was gonna go. Her good one.
Damn.
What did I tell her? A little hitchhiker is into flow.
Yep.
Do it every time you have, you know, stay out of pain, but keep moving it, especially on the plane because of the pressure and all that.
Right.
And I showed her how to tape her elbow. Same thing, man. She got better in a week pretty much, and it made 100% recovery. She was back. Whereas the other one still clicks, still messed up.
I think it's so important. I love the way that you guys have been doing it, where it's part of the warm-ups. It's part of the cool-downs.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit tough to be, like you said, trying to learn jiu-jitsu and being a fish out of water if you don't have any sort of martial art grappling background. It's like moving with 2 left feet. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, some of the higher levels TACFIT people, you know, like the team leaders and stuff. It's super interesting, man, because maybe they've never trained jiu-jitsu before. But because they have the structures and stuff and the breathing,
right,
man, they're almost like purple belts. I'm not kidding. You know.
No, it makes sense because of the calm, right? The factor.
Yeah, they're not over breathing. They're like, you know, they know how to control their breathing. They know how to breathe, when to breathe. They understand the structure, so they're just like, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, cool, got it. And they're so aware, and they also have the strength, right?
That's right. Matt Wiswesser. Right?
Right.
He's a brown belt.
He's black belt now.
Whoa, shout out to Matt. Congrats.
Yeah.
That's wild. So what was first for him? Was it TACFIT? Or was
it? I think it was probably. I think it was TACFIT possibly.
Wow.
Because he's known Scott, you know.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I remember listening to the podcast that you had with him.
Yeah.
And he was saying, you know, the moves and the transfer, you know, just even the moves that Scott did, because that's his background from Sambo and grappling. And it's funny to be on the outside of TACFIT, right? Like when I got involved with it, you know, building the site, and it was like, okay. And then diving further into it really made sense. So as I was saying, I think the approach that you have where it becomes a natural part of the warm-ups and the movements, and then these guys are already getting the proprioception and the familiarity with their body and joints, I do think that is what I would like to see the future. You know, if I ever opened up a school, I'd want that to be a part of it, because that's what I do at my current school. You know, I'll arrive to the mats a little bit earlier, go through my into flow, and I was just so banged up. You know,
and it doesn't have to be like that, right?
You really
can be banged up, and you can. How do you recover from that?
Yeah, you know, I would love to see, and this is why, you know, I love being still connected to you in TACFIT, just seeing a very modular version of the whole system, because it's very comprehensive, and I think people never knowing how far to go in and how much they want to back out. I think I told you the story when I first, what was it, King of Clubs.
King of Clubs.
That
the
was
program King of Clubs.
Loved it
on TACFIT.com.
And
the classic Scott Sonnen's
that's
King
right.
of Clubs.
Shout out to Buff Rob, as I still call him, because he was showing me some of the movements. He was my exposure to it, going through with the club bell. I was like, yo, I like the way it felt on my forearms and the grip and stuff. And I remember just going through it. It was a lot for me to like comfortably sit down and just work through. But I had to just take little bite-sized pieces and try to see how I could think with it. And I think it was right during the pandemic. And I was like, okay, let me just spend the next week and a half introducing myself to the system and digesting a little bit, and then walking away and going to do something else. And what I loved was it the 4-day wave? And then, or the 7-day wave? And I loved where you were thinking about the intensity,
and you're thinking about waving your training instead
of
going, you know,
harder.
You know, that's the American, you know, way of life. Like harder is better. Push, no pain, no gain. Like, actually, no.
It accumulates, and stress, as he talks about, accumulates. And I loved it. And for me, I would love to see how you would fit that into a school logistically, right? So, okay, let's do could you do that? Could you create a system where the people had the level of comfort to learn that way? And I kind of thought about it, and I figured I'd just pitch it right here, right? Okay, so you have the no intensity day, all right? So that's just light movement, thinking about the heart rate, not going too high, technique drilling. And I was wondering if you could do, okay, so that's one slot. So you might have to do like multiple classes in the same day where people could come in based on their wave. Because I always ran into that problem where it's like, okay, so you have no intensity, low intensity, moderate, high. Well, I don't get to judge what my role is going to be. That's my instructor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get to go, all right, I'm going to do moderate when I got to roll with 7 people back to back, or you know, winner stays. Like, and I could just be a novice, but it's figuring out how to work all of that into there. And I would love to see a school where you could do, okay, so the morning class, we're going to set it up for the guys that are on no intensity, and then the guys that are at moderate, and then, you know, high, and stuff like that. So you could potentially do that. I don't know that you could leave it up to the students to do it themselves.
So that's a great point, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking about jiu-jitsu, and it's the same thing for just the TACFIT class itself.
Right.
Like, how do you make a class only for, you know, low intensity or medium intensity? Sure, you can have classes, but you can make whatever you want. You can make a flow fit, you know, high intensity if you want, right? But, you know, what I found, because, you know, I traveled around the world, like I went to all the schools everywhere I went. And
a sponge.
And it comes down to, like we found, is just educating people on the wave, then the different levels of intensity, and it takes time. You know, it's like jiu-jitsu. Yeah, it takes time, and I think that it's infiltrated into our jiu-jitsu, and little by little, like we got Kevin here, our producer, wearing the TACFIT, you know, flip flops, you know, but it's just takes time to to get in there, and then it's part of the culture, and I think that's the important part. Is having that culture instead of it being some weird thing, weird movements or whatever, somebody looking at you funny. But no, this is what we do. This is what you need to do.
Normalized TACFIT.
I mean, hey man, it's all the right stuff.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, 100%.
And you know, like, people see how serious I'm about it because it's changed my life, man. It's changed my life, and everybody that does it, the same thing happens to them. they get better at jiu-jitsu. They live their best life.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you do it? You know?
Well, if jiu-jitsu is a lifestyle, like I want to do this forever.
Like TACFIT, right?
Right.
It's a way of life.
Yep. But that's what's going to allow that. And, I'm so interested in data, in information. And I'd love to, and this is just something that's on my long-term bucket list, to continue working with great individuals like yourself and other people that have their own pull in their own space, and just going like, what are the most common injuries? There's studies, there's things like that. And I've kind of simplistically broken it down where it's like, okay, well, if you're a guard player, your back. It's going to be your lower back, right? Especially if you do other things, when you're constantly pulling up your legs, the hip flexors, and if you're sitting at a computer, you're shortening those, and there's all these things. So there's going to be a certain like chart of like, if you play this game, think and deal with these kinds of things.
So the Ethan Kreisworth, he's like the IBJJF head medic, whatever. So he's had some articles and things that he's written, and like over 40. A real common one is the ribs.
Yeah.
It gets tight, right? It gets tight, and so the ribs pop, whatever. Especially at the Master Worlds, you can see a lot more rib injuries. But, I've done all these neuroscience courses, all these different guys working with the high-level athletes. And grappling and stuff, a lot of elbows and knees. Elbows and knees, right?
Yep.
It puts a lot of strain. Of course, shoulders, like, the UCF, like upper cluster, and the hips, right? Like lower back and all that. Is the other one, because there's so much going on. So that's why it's so important to move all of your joints and move everything like the interflow every single day.
Yep.
So yeah, what was it? You had a question, or was bringing up the subject?
Just thinking about that, kind of as like, okay, cool. So I've been a guard guy, right? Like as a big guy, you can always play top and do all that.
And I think just the types of games too, right? For life, like maybe, inverting, like when you're, 6 years old, with, maybe somebody that's double your weight, you probably don't want to do that,
Yep.
Those kinds of games, and, I've had so many of my friends, neck injuries, neck surgeries, back surgeries, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
But also like that's why there's levels of knowledge, right?
Yep.
Of jiu-jitsu. And for me, like, of course, I love competing. I love fighting. I love all the different aspects. And my friend Sururu Edson, George here, who's a really complete jiu-jitsu teacher fighter, just because of our background, fighting, jiu-jitsu, gi, no gi, whatever. So it's really nice because we come from that certain school. Right. But today and age, it's bigger than that, right? And it's like it should improve the quality of your life.
Right.
It should improve the quality of your life. And if you have like hardcore neck pain all day, or you have to get neck surgery, like it's not, it doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
And a lot of things, sometimes, the bone sticking out of your leg and you got to get surgery and those kinds of things. But a lot of times it can be prevented, right? What is Scott's formula? Moving your joints, moving all your joints every single day.
Yep. Getting
your heart rate up, the magic is the moderate intensity.
Okay.
That's where like you get the neurogenesis, the new brain cells, the arborization, where the tentacles of the neurons get bushier and then they connect more. And then the myelinization, which is the fatty tissue around the nerves, kind of like on an electrical wire, the rubber, right? So the signal gets to the area, which the immune system attacks with MS attacks that part, the myelinization. So all those things happen, just things start to work better.
Yeah.
Because everything is balanced out. Your nervous system, right? It's like a mixer, right? An audio mixer. Your immune system, your nervous system. Your nervous system dictates everything, but your immune system and your hormones, your endocrine system, right?
Right.
It's always balancing, right? It's always balanced. So it makes everything just be at the right level. That moderate intensity, And so the 40 waves, you're always, maybe you push yourself maybe from training, and so maybe the next day you need to recover a little bit, but it just gets you in the right place where all the magic happens.
Yeah, and
then it becomes, does become like a health first. Well, if you're competing and you're fighting and stuff, if you're a high level athlete, like you do stuff that's bad for your health, right? Because you want to win so bad. Especially when you're younger.
Yeah.
But the good news is you can recover, man. You can recover. It's not too late.
Right.
And you can do more. You can train more. You can be better. You can, your technique, you can be cleaner, right? Because I remember there was like a quote from Marcelo Garcia. I love Marcelo Garcia.
Beast.
And he would say like, yeah, if you want it and you work really hard, anybody can be world champion or something like that, you know. And like I liked his enthusiasm and I like his belief in you know in people, but like you need to the learning part is interesting because people learn differently, and you have Scott Sonham with his so-called learning disabilities, and the way he broke down TACFIT, it teaches you simple, compound, complex. And because of that, you're able to break the things down to the simplest levels. And now anybody has access how to learn the techniques properly, doing a berimbolo, doing whatever complex movements. Some people can't get it, but if you do it that way, anybody can get it. It's just following through the steps, right?
Yeah.
It's following through with the process.
Yeah, there's almost sort of this award you get for making things complex. You don't really get the same accolades that you get for making things simple, right? Because I can't learn from jiu-jitsu videos. Like I can't. I'm not capable.
Yeah, I'm a people person. Like I need somebody show me things.
And of course on my Instagram I have saved little techniques that I never look at again. Yeah. But I like the idea.
Everybody has those things, right? Like, he's laughing because everybody does the same thing. I'm going to go over that later. I'm going to practice it with somebody.
Never. That moment.
It's just so easy now with the information age to, you know, back in the day I had to go with the VHS camera. I had to go around with the VHS camera and record matches.
To get something.
I had to go around looking for this guy, Paqueta, that was selling VHS tapes. And then like rewind the thing or you know, record like sport TV because, you know, everything was in Brazil in those days. It's crazy, man. You know, it's just crazy.
It's everywhere. And
now it's just like, you know, Instagram everywhere, like instant, you know, all day long, every day.
Yeah, but as a guy who isn't anybody, so take this with a grain of salt, I'm always worried about the...
You're feta, man. You're the beast. You're the beast.
You know, like I always look and wonder about the quality of the information because I've seen moves that were taught to me very simply, and I've seen ones that have like 12 steps, and I go, why did you add that additional step that just makes it overly complex? So I think there's sort of like there's a lot of people who want to share information. I love that because it gets it out there, but at the same time, I'm always curious, like. Maybe they're just looking for their time to explain something.
Sure, they want to show that they're you know, they're an expert, right?
Yeah,
but I think like there's that quote, right, where like something advanced is something done simply really well. Those are the advanced things, right?
Well, when I was
there's levels, like you look at Hoxton and these Hodge Gracie, and they're doing basics, but there's levels to those basics.
There's so many levels,
and I think as somebody really, you know, experienced and you know, like a true master, right? He understands different body types, personalities, and he is able to help that person, guide them to find those right games, those right styles for that person, right?
I think it's a kind of an art, like being an instructor. One day I'd love to do that. I don't know when. You know, because I think it's a big responsibility, you know, like shaping people's experience with jiu-jitsu and doing that. And you've done a fantastic job. Like you got a massive school, you know, great black belts, exceptional culture. Like that's like a daunting task. Like, how do I get to that point? You know, so I'm not, you know, trying to put the cart before the horse. Just keep training, keep showing up.
That's it, yeah.
And eventually I'll learn something.
Well, the name of your school in Tampa is?
Safety Harbor Jiu-Jitsu.
Safety Harbor, okay. Yeah. And he was a black belt of Pejapano.
So he is a black belt of
a black belt
of Beta Panos. So gotcha. Legs is what they call them.
Legs, okay.
Yeah.
Dana? No, just legs.
No, just legs. Okay. Rodrigo Grano, he's a great black belt, came from him. And he's literally just, the first time I met him, I was like, this guy's tall and he's got some long legs. He's like, yeah, he's legs. And I was like, that makes sense. But my instructor, everybody calls him Muchacho. That's his name.
Muchacho?
Like, Muchacho, that's his nickname.
That's cool.
He's got his own story about that. But a great guy to learn from. Like he's built a good culture in the school. You know, there's longevity there. And I think that's kind of a different piece, right? As the old school was, you do that, right? You just keep butting heads and you battle, and it's iron, you know, forges iron, and yes, but you do need the recovery. You need that, hey, don't try to fight out of that move. Just tap. Like, you need to train again tomorrow.
Yeah. You know, like, you can't force things, right? People have their personalities. Like my daughter who competes and stuff. It's interesting, right? Because then I see her personality, and it's like, well, I want to win. Like I'm going to win. and so you'll do whatever it takes to win, and then in the process, right, you can get hurt and stuff like that. Yeah. But you know, you have to push yourself, right, until there's limits. Like I think the good news, right, with the TACFIT, for example, it's there when you need it. I just try to like over and over and over try to talk to people to get them to stretch out, to release tension in the body, over and over and over. You know, like yeah, you know, hey, stretch out, because it takes time to understand, to do it, to learn. It's like a technique, right?
But you only care when you're in pain, though. That's like the first piece,
right. You get humbled, right? You get humbled, and then you're open to it, and you're like, okay, I need to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. So my back injuries, right? So I messed up my back. So we can talk about that, like, because that's wild, like how much everything plays together, right? Especially depending on the age, I think, at which you start jiu-jitsu is going to determine the injuries that you have. Right?
Genetics too, right?
Yeah, right. So, you know, weightlifting a lot, and it was always to lift more, heavier. Deadlifting.
I remember you used to put all the weights on the barbell when he came,
and then I'd have to take them off immediately.
Or the Zoom calls, you had your picture, you know.
That's right. Yeah, me deadlifting. Yep.
Because you sound like when you on the phone, like, oh, he's, you know, like big old dude. You don't sound like that, you know, on the phone. You know, on the Zoom.
Most of the time, people think I'm below 5 foot, like below, like, you know, 5'5". I'm not, but yes, I do. I probably sound like that, but it works. But yeah, I was deadlifting with crappy technique, right? I mean, yeah, sure, that's probably, but I don't want to do something that does that anyway. So messed up. I felt like a really bad searing pain.
Everybody does those things when you're younger, you know, benching too much, you know, like you want to show how much you bench, you know, how many times, right? When you're a kid, how much you bench, like it's a man, you know, so numbers. It's a part of everybody's, but you know,
I learned from it. Anyways, I felt this searing pain, and of course, like a knucklehead, I just finished my set. I was like, cool, that hurt, let me just continue. And I was kind of like the part where it started going downhill. I think I was a blue belt at the time. And whenever I'd get like a judo throw and land on my back, it would just turn everything back on, the sciatic pain. And there was just a lot of compressed nerves and things like that. There's points where it was heavily recommended that I do surgery. And I did a lot of physical therapy and decompression and doing certain things to strengthen that up and help get that out of there. You know, like everything under the
tension,
sun. Yeah, sun, moon, and stars, from prolotherapy to PRP, just everything to reduce the inflammation. But you know, that kind of triggered and made the rest of my training difficult because, you know, I've been a brown belt for 6 years now, right? I got my brown belt in 2015, but I lost like 2 good years.
Yeah, I mean, but everything was open over there. Yeah, 7 years. No excuse that it was the pandemic, right? No. 7 years. 7 years. 7 years.
No, that's true. 7 years.
7 years.
And I've been pretty consistent, you know. But that kind of changed up everything to me because I realized that I grew up with jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is something that I've been doing for a better part of my life, right? Like as a teenager getting into it, or in my early, you know, it was 2021, I'm now 34. So it's been a consistent part, like being with my wife. I've been with her since I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah, we got our 10-year anniversary coming up in 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah, good thing I just remembered that on the podcast. Thank goodness. But yeah, it's 5 days. And, you know, this has been consistent. So being with my wife, those are things that I've built good habits with. But when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you want it to go on forever, right? Like you want to make a lifestyle.
That's it.
You know, and I don't.
That's it.
And doing the into flow is what's extending that. No more waking up in back pain, or if I don't feel good, I wake up.
You know what to do.
Exactly. And I start, you know, I like to go outside, get some sun, you know, because that's very important for your health, and just start with my into flow, just kind of at peace, just working through it, 15 minutes, and I'm pretty good, get some work done. If I'm going to class, I'll do it before then, before bed, and it's just kind of become
a routine.
It's huge.
Yeah, because everybody's sitting down, right? But you work on the computer a lot. Everybody sits down too much. And so being in that position all day, if you don't move your stuff, like we kind of get sick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so I want to continue that path of training and learning and enlightening, you know, myself with the knowledge that there is to learn from the people around me.
Yeah.
You know, so it's always funny to see how much you dive into this, because I remember when I first started, I think I got my first show-year-old gi from you when I came out here. You're like, you check out this brand, go get some of this stuff, and I was like, what is this? I think I only knew like a Fuji or stuff like that.
The fit, because it had an A2 Husky, right?
A2H, and surprisingly, it fit
like a glove.
Like a glove. Yeah. And you've been repping them since like day one.
Yeah,
that's so interesting to me, because then you see the people who start at different points. So I think I was a purple belt when I got into to like really getting into gis and buying gis, and I'm not like that crazy. I probably have like 22 different gis. But I love that.
Not like Chris burning somebody.
Yeah. He's got, I don't even know how many. We probably shouldn't discuss that about how many he has. But he's a huge fan, man. He came rocking a new one. I saw you rocking a new one today.
Yeah, I got it.
That was cool. I love what.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, it's cool, right? It's cool. Have
own culture though. I
like
love
sneakers and whatever.
Right.
It's part of the thing, and
I love the quality. I love the fit of their stuff.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of get into them and you start trying other different gis and realizing what's for you. When I was outside, I was just watching, because I follow them on Instagram, and they have this new tapes where people call and leave a message about jiu-jitsu, and I think that's awesome, because it's like this community building thing where people get to like engage a little bit more. I love that about.
I think they tagged Acai Jungle. I saw that today.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, something on Instagram.
Yeah. Great place. Yeah. That's an awesome spot.
Oh, the cafe.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to acai.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I had like the bowls, and then I think I'd gone to some mall. I was like, oh, I like these bowls, and I was like, okay, not all acai is the same. So it was cool. Great food. I was eating there before it came up.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. Hey, we miss you, man. It's really cool. Everybody's all excited. James came out early. He never gets up this early.
8 a.m. is early.
Chris, it's cool, man. Just all these guys. Happy to see you.
Such a pleasure, man. Seeing like how everybody grows and the culture of it. Just surviving. I think I had like 9 rolls or something today.
Yeah.
Just
wanted to train with you. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Nothing but love. You know. Seeing different body types working together, like.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I want to bring up the Arm Max thing, just because, that was just such a crazy monumental task to get all the stuff was in that old, just to set up the TACFIT.com, right? Original TACFIT.com.
Absolutely.
It was always the Arm Max International and getting those things over, right?
Yeah. There's a bit of a legacy, associated with RMAX. I love what was done. It was very cutting edge for the time of moving digital products, and it created a lot of different resources. But consolidating it in one place, it was an honor. I enjoyed the exposure and learning it, and I don't know that I would have got into it as deeply as I did had I not been involved with it.
Working on it.
Yeah, because then I had to like digest it and understand it and go like, oh, this is something different. It's not all the same. As a person that does marketing, it is important to understand what it is that you're going to market, what it is you're going to put together, things like that.
Yeah, and you did some flow fit as well, right? You married it, because the magic, right, is the club bells with the flow fit with the body weight, kind of flows and stuff.
Yeah, so as a part of the program for the King of Clubs, you end up doing the Into Flow, which I learned as strain prevention. So I didn't really learn the names traditionally, but I was like, oh yeah, so I do that. And then I remember like, oh, you need to do Into Flow. I was like, oh, what's that? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. And I like Flow Fit as well, especially for it is such, I love the way that you can scale up the intensity for it, right? Because you can keep it really slow and not break a sweat, or you could be drenched by the end of it. And I find that was great for my hips, for my knees. Not too much shoulder problems, knock on wood. But
you're too buff. Your shoulders are too buff.
I don't know about that.
Knock on wood, right?
Yeah, seriously. Not jinx it. I had messed up my knee training a couple weeks ago. I think it was 2 months ago, and I was just talking a whole bunch of crap. I was like, oh, my knees are fine. And then it popped.
Sure
and I was
enough,
I don't talk about that anymore. But Into Flow, Flow Fit is great. I love it. I love You know, I haven't been as consistent recently. I've been, you know, doing more like sledding and stuff like that as part of my rehab for my knee, which has done wonders for that, but always trying to make sure that I get a little bit of movement. When I got on the mats, I did a little bit of a flow fit routine, which is the shin box flow, which is very, very intuitive, very easy to remember. I'm not the best at, you know, remembering all the sequences, but that one just kind of became a part of me. Yeah. And it was just like, that's what I'm doing anyways. I'm opening up my hips, you know, I'm re-guarding, transitioning from one guard to another. And it was like, yeah,
that's cool. That's, because it depends what you need, right? It's not about somebody else. It's what you need for your body. And those are the areas that seem to be really tight on you.
Yep.
And so that's your flow, right?
Absolutely.
And you're sticking with that flow, and it seems to do what you need, right?
Yeah, and there's so many more to pull from, which is what's exciting. Like, as I continue doing this, seeing what's next, I played around with the one that had the Kong as a part of the sequence, and I was like, okay, my back's a little bit tight for this one, but
you see where you're tight, right?
Yeah, and work
like
through
maybe
it.
I need to, maybe hang around there a little bit, right, to open things up.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one of the coolest parts that I think, like, as we've talked about, you know, you have the club bells, you have the Into Flow, and you have the Flow Fit. I loved the piece from the module Resilience Breathing.
Resilience Breathing.
And if you know, anybody listening and hasn't checked that out, that was
it's free, right?
Yeah,
free on TACFIT.com.
Yep, free on the website, and it was just the understanding of the control of your breath and how to recover from that. And I think as someone, you know, as a you know, a bit heavier, like, cardio and breathing is always a concern, and also being out of control with the breathing, right? Because you can hit such a high level where you go so hard that you are gasping for air, and that's pretty freaking scary. You know what I mean? Let's be real. That can be scary. But learning how to recover my breath and get comfortable, that was the biggest thing that I saw, like the immediate change. Of course, I had the mobility, but learning. And then it made me be able to get more rounds in. You know what I mean? Like, class now, I'm rolling every time. No breaks, no sitting down, from one partner to another. And knowing how to breathe and how to control the intensity for that roll. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it, because there's still times where I'm gassed, but I'm never afraid of, you know, my heart rate getting to 184, 185. And
you know how to get it down.
Yeah.
You have technique now.
Yeah. And it's so easy to do, but at the same time, it's not what you want to do, right? Like, as a person, you want to mouth breathe and go, you know, and do that, and just holding the breath for a moment, exhaling, holding the breath, inhaling, and just doing that, like, made such a big difference to my cardio and my conditioning. So yeah, maybe I'll pant for maybe a second or two, and then it just comes right back, and then on to the next roll.
It's awesome, man. Yeah. It's awesome. It's good. Good
Absolutely.
stuff. How did you get into marketing?
Yeah, you know, it kind of was always there. When I was a teenager, you know, that was, you know, getting into web design, you know, being, you know, custom coding. One of my childhood best friends was building websites for people. And, you know, I had spent time, you know, working in a consulting company dealing with, you know, in-person training for a variety of different professions, tax people, things, just to help them, you know, put a little bit more structure in their businesses, medical professionals, things of that nature. And then I started to really look at the marketing side, like, how did they get new customers? How do they bring in new people? And, you know, I started learning and, you know, reading some books on that. And I got offered a job from one of my childhood best friends who had his own web design company. And then I got involved, and I was working from the quality control side and started learning more about web development and project management and things of that nature. And then I, you know, became the COO for that company and started learning about, you know, as I worked my way up, learning about, you know, paid advertising, search engine optimization, you name it. And I think it's just always come from my love of interacting with people. I like to deal with people and build relationships. You can learn so much from different people. And I'm always hungry to learn more and see how I can support them in their dreams and their visions, you know. you know, not in any sort of like magical, sparkling fairy dust sort of way, but just like, okay, you have this business and you are motivated by this dream. And I find that infectious. That drives me as well. That motivates me to get after it. And marketing was that gateway where I could learn about a person, about their company and what they were doing. And then I got to educate myself. And I found that was kind of the best angle to learn. Like when you're learning like one-on-one, sometimes it's a little bit daunting where you're like, oh, am I gonna remember this? And then I got to study, and then, you know, the jitters of testing. Well, it removed all of that and just allowed me to look at it from a purely theoretical place, maybe, where I could go, oh, all right, yeah. So what do I need to know so that I can tell people about this? Because that's what marketing is, right? And then that allowed me to kind of get this higher vantage point where I could learn about a business very quickly and see all of the opportunities and go, we need this, we need to build this. So, you know, it kind of evolved from a place of, you know, going through and implementing, you know, search engine optimization campaigns, but really understanding who the core target audience was. And then I'd learn a little bit more about the company, and we'd create something beautiful. Like, oh, you're doing this, you know, like with the 101s. It was like, here's a perfect way to expose people to this new system. So,
because less information is better sometimes, right? Just get them moving.
I mean, I think that is the key for anything, because it's like everything's all connected. You know what I mean? Like people learning about stuff, and I think the most successful companies are the ones that remove the barrier to entry and make it so easy for a person to start doing something. And I think it's the human nature to overcomplicate things is what gets in our way of growing and selling something new, right?
Yeah. You know, you're a you know, longtime lifter, barbell guy, right?
Yeah.
Barbell, dumbbell guy, barbell guy for sure.
Yeah.
What do you love about the club bell?
It's very versatile, right? The different movements that you can get in the different angles, right? Because normally it's like a push or a pull on, you know, a particular plane. And I love that it's also something that you don't have to go crazy and wait, right? Because I think that's what kind of, you know, I'm addicted to lifting heavy things.
Right.
And you're always going to want to push yourself. And you go, oh, can I lift 400? Can I lift 500? And maybe you can, but should you? With a club bell, it kind of motivates you to train smarter, right? Because yes, I could lift a, you know, the bruiser, the 45 pound, but like with what level of technique?
Movement sophistication, right?
Exactly.
Which can make, you know, cooks your nervous system.
100%. Well,
you can make you cook with the 5-pounders, right?
And I love that. Okay, so right?
Like your mind is like blown. Like what?
Because
you're crumbling with 5 pounds in your head.
But that means I'm gonna live longer. I'm not gonna injure myself with 5 pounds, right? Like the heavier the weight and the more you know, sophisticated the movement is directly proportionate to the amount of gain. But you can also injure yourself. Like
right.
Bench pressing 400 pounds, I'm not going to do that by myself without a spotter. Like there's the risk to reward ratio is changing. You know, people are talking about less people doing deadlifts now, like less athletes, less NFL guys are doing deadlifts. And when I was coming up, it was like, oh, everybody has to deadlift, but why? So with the club bell, for me, it's like you can get so much gain from one set, you know, 10, 15, dual. You know what I mean? I've never had my shoulders taxed as much. And I love the recruitment of the forearm on this stuff, but also the lower body. You get a full body
head to toe, yeah.
From head to toe, and you're going to be able to train again. I think it was I saw this clip from Firas Zahabi, the
TriStar.
Yeah, and he's talking about work capacity and getting time in. And how much you can train, and that kind of aligned in my mind with the 4-day wave. It's like, that's right. You need to get the time in. You need the repetitions. You need to be able to overcome the nervousness. And if you're constantly stopping because you're so overly sore and you've hurt yourself, you're setting yourself back.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that about the clubbell. I love the steel mace as well. It's just all these implements, like my garage.
You have a little TACFIT home gym?
It's a full TACFIT gym, from the box to the rope to the rings, the parallettes, clubbells. You know, I got all
the full set.
The full set, yeah. Nice. You know, and it was the Clubbell Mobility 101, right? I was doing it. It was Aaron Cruz's, and the clubbells these are the older ones, like the teal and the blue ones.
The clubbell yoga.
The clubbell yoga ones. And they don't look very like, you know, like
intimidating.
Exactly. And
it's like neoprene. Yeah.
Let's just say when I was in the garage working at the garage door was down. You know, this guy's, you know, holding these little wands around. But the movement pattern's laughing over here. He knows. He can imagine me just doing these things in the garage and just sweating for no freaking reason.
Twirlers.
For no reason. People walking by like, yo, what's wrong with this guy? And just doing some of the movements with like 2.5 pounds was insane. Like these moves that got progressively more complex.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you know, as I said, I don't typically learn well from videos, but the TACFIT training system was easy for me to absorb because of how they broke it down. Yeah.
Aaron Cruz, like,
very well. So I was doing this whole sequence that I couldn't even tell you now, but it's like, you know, lifting, going in, then out, and then like doing this. And my shoulders were just completely taxed, but without any risk of like pulling something. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, sure, maybe you do an Arnold press or a military press and you might drop the weight, something
might tear. Huh? You can make light heavy and you can make heavy light with technique.
And I think it has the best correlation in terms of something that you can do to see an immediate benefit to jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It just feels great.
Yeah, I love that. You know, because both of us think about jiu-jitsu, right? But even if you don't do jiu-jitsu, it just makes you better at anything you do.
Right, but...
Or just life, right?
So this is going to kind of dive into the marketing side, right? Looking at analytics, looking at the behavior of people and the demographics. What we saw was the people who were reaching most and engaging with the TACFIT system was a very particular age. And it was the people above 25. Right? Well, of course, all the other places.
It was always, remember we changed it.
That's right.
You changed it because it was always like 40 plus.
That's right.
And you lowered the bar to young, you know, late 20s, right?
Yeah.
30s.
And it's just
which is huge.
Right. But it was the mentality of where people were at. And that's the part about marketing. That's the part about jiu-jitsu. That's the part about TACFIT and all of the systems is it's thinking about the person in front of you, or the person who's going to be in front of your product. And it was going, okay, the people who were 40 plus, what is it that they're dealing with? Well, the body changes. If you haven't been as active, you're going to notice more injuries and pains and stuff like that. And I go, okay, cool. That makes sense why those people are jumping to that, because they want an answer. Well, what is it that the younger people want? And I saw myself in that, right? Like where I lifted so much, I sustained injuries. And there's a part where you can't keep doing that, right? Like if you start jiu-jitsu when you're younger, you can get through a lot of things. But I think it was like right after my 25th birthday, I started experiencing pain, like right afterwards. Like I couldn't just coast through it. I couldn't train 2 to 3 times a day. There was a consequence to doing something stupid, you know, putting my leg in a bad place. And then I was like, oh, now I have like real commitments with children, right? My son was born and I was 25 and I was like, well, I'm not going to sleep as much. And then
stresses, right? You get more stressed out.
Stresses, and made me more prone to injuries. So at that point where I go, well, I can't spend 2 hours in the gym anymore. That's just not practical. And I think at that age of 25 and above, life really is like, hey, bro, you can't really be in the gym for 2 hours with your buddies. You need to get in 30 to 45 minutes, and it needs to be effective so that you can continue. Because I don't control my sleep, right? When you have kids, you don't know if they're going to wake up. So, yes, I can do everything that I plan to get my 8 hours. But, you know, somebody jumps into my bed and they had a nightmare. Like, I don't
Yeah.
I don't have control over
that.
that.
Yeah.
And I think that's that demographic of 25 and above where they're, now have a job and commitments where they now have to figure out how to balance those two. And they can't do what they used to. And that's what I think
That's interesting.
made that big shift, right? They're hungry now. They know that, well, I can't do what I was doing before. Well, where can I get some support? And that's what we started seeing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep.
What's next for you? What have you been up to?
Man, training.
What have you been up to? You're always up to everything.
Always something. Just continuing. I love what I'm doing in marketing and the different types of people that I've been supporting. Just a wide variety from people in the automotive space dealing with, like the OEMs and big car manufacturers to little small mom and pop places that aren't so small anymore. I've been getting a lot of success, believe it or not, in the beauty space. It's like, I'm going to go back to Jiu-Jitsu, right? Like there's things that you look at leverage, you look at effort being applied and energy and how do you get the most from it? And I think as a bigger guy, you often want to power through something. But if you're getting resistance, why? Right? Like, why fight to get that arm bar? In my mind, submission is applied at a certain percentage of it being completed. That's where I might bring the power, right? So on a scale from 0 to 10, 0, you don't have the submission. 5, it's more or less there. 10, it's already there. So in the beginning, you start applying the pressure at maybe 2, and you realize that's not efficient or effective, right? You're trying to get an arm bar where the guy's like on the other side of the room. Like, that's not going to happen. So you start figuring out where you start to put that effort and that pressure and that energy. It's the same thing with marketing. You go, okay, well, you have somebody that goes.
I love how you relate everything to that, right?
Well, but it's something like I can think with.
Yeah, Jigar O'Connor, right? Maximum efficiency, minimal effort.
But that
for life, right?
that is everything, though, right? That's where you get success. There's the book called The Flywheel, and it's the same concept of adding on to things and building on those to get that momentum.
Yeah.
And I think that's where businesses run into trouble is they have this idea that, like, I want to sell this thing, and you go like, but nobody's asking for that yet. So yes, you could definitely spend enough money to get someone to buy a marble sink that's coated in the best quality gold or whatever. But how much money did you spend to get that? And what is the lifetime value of that thing? So, it's just been kind of shifting the view with the businesses that I'm working on. It's like, well, you need to get somebody to come to see you. And if you're a good, reputable company, which is the ones I try to work with, is show them why you're good. What is your introductory offering to bring the person into you so that they can go, oh, yeah, this is what I've been missing, and then working from there. You do need to provide something to bring people in, and you do a great job of that. Having people come to school. That's why you guys are growing like crazy, opening up schools left and right. It's knowing that and thinking with that. So the beauty space has been great. I love working with those individuals. They really know what they do and they love, and it's something that's always going to be there. Like really, it's recession proof. It's you think about it, right? Like, my wife is not going to not get her hair done because of the economy. We might cut out Netflix. We might never eat out again, but she's still going to get her nails and her hair done. So it's just one of those things that will just continue to exist. Think about it. Like, think about the crash in 07, 08, 09, whatever.
Right.
Women didn't stop getting their hair done.
Right.
Maybe they went to a cheaper place. Maybe they did it less frequently, but it's a natural part. Like, people aren't going to stop going to see their barber. Yeah. People aren't going to stop getting tattoos, So it's been fun working with those people.
Yeah. What's going to happen with technology, Facebook, and I think I've shared you that futuristic guy, the George Gilder, the life after Google, with Facebook and, just the privacy things and in terms of marketing.
I think it's the problem is laziness in marketing. Right? Like, Facebook is still powerful, but it was crazy powerful. Like, there was data you could find if somebody recently bought a car, and sorry, what I mean by laziness is not necessarily in the
how about like the phone, right? You're talking about something and then it's like listening, and then all of a sudden like ads pop up for the thing you're talking about.
So yeah, there's more to it, because sometimes I'll be like, give me a good deal, and nothing. Right?
No, but you're talking about like, I don't know, Teslas, and then all of a sudden Tesla ads pop up on your Facebook.
Yeah.
Or some Instagram even.
So it's so interesting, right? Because there's so many data points at play. So I don't know that it's necessarily that simplistic that everything you're going to talk about will do that, because Facebook is pulling on so many different data points, right? There's a little bit of code that's based on the websites that you've been to. So is it that you've already gone to Tesla and now you're talking about it again and you're seeing the ads? Or is it literally that you're talking about something that you've never heard of? As a person who does marketing, I think it's good that you are receptive to marketing. So I click on ads and I buy stuff. I buy a lot of things online, not more than I should, but I get the exposure.
C too, yeah.
Yeah, but also support people. Like I don't want to ask people to give money for other people and then me being like, no, I would. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I'm kind of a part of the problem otherwise, right? And so I don't know that it's necessarily that they're listening in. We do know, like, Siri and things, data will be gathered, but I don't know if it's necessarily a 1-for-1. You know what I mean?
I know
free
you
gold. Free gold. We'll see. I'll let you know tomorrow if I'm very wealthy.
You talk about stuff, and I don't know, like, I'm just, I know you do all these courses, and you're up to date with a lot of these things.
There are pieces that are definitely listening in, and for sure they're pulling that data, but I cannot tell you that everything that you say is going to pull something up. But it's all contributed. One thing that I started learning was I'd be talking about Chipotle, because I like Chipotle, and it's, I can fit it into my diet and what I'm eating. And then I'd open up my phone, and then the app would be available in the search light, the spotlight for Siri, right? Like you pull to the side and it shows the apps and it's predictive. And then I was doing this kind of game, like, do you remember being a kid and trying to like close the refrigerator and see if the light was still on?
Yeah.
And then you eventually, get smarter, and or your parents yell at you, like, "What are you doing?" I was like, trying to see if the light's like, there's a button, bro. Like, look at it. But I was playing around and trying to tinker through that and go, and then I search and it goes, yes, it's pulling the data from what you're saying to use that as suggestions. So as far as Facebook will never disappear. They're just going to change the way they're doing it. And it's just going to require you to use what the people had to do back in the day. There's great books, Positioning by Jack Trout and Al Rice, in marketing, where it's knowing about the people who would be interested in your product and not just blasting it everywhere. And that's what I think Facebook is moving more in the direction of. And that's what I mean by laziness, where it's, okay, yeah, sure, you can hit somebody with enough, you can spend enough money to get enough people that people will eventually filter through and buy. Or you can do your research and go, who's the right person for this? Who am I going to help? And then do it that way. So I think it will continue to exist, but I don't think it will be like, shooting fish in a pond anymore, where you're like, yeah, buy it.
Like it was, yeah.
You're right. It's just going to change. So I love staying on top of that. There's other platforms like TikTok, and, it's funny for
TikTok is crazy, the algorithms, the exposure. You're like,
yeah, but they know, right? So what I loved about Facebook was the shift in where money is making is in the commoditizing of awareness in people's eyes. There are people who are making millions of dollars because they're influencers, and all they're doing is creating content. And then it's just looking a little bit further and going like, okay, well, what else can I do, right? Oh, what can I monetize? And there's all these other platforms, and, OnlyFans, which has a very specific use that maybe wasn't what was intended, but people are making money, and they're understanding how much control that they have on their own destiny in life. So TikTok, people are making money on that. Now, the thing that I think is interesting about TikTok is they know the value that they have and what they're building, which is allowing people to get more exposure. Because Instagram used to have that. Now you put something in for you to go viral on Instagram is like very unlikely because it's more pay to play.
The reels, right? The reels is the algorithms are kind of crazy right now.
Yeah,
it's like they're kind of compete with TikTok, right?
And that's why there's an incentive for people to do, and they want more of that content, so they're going to reward it more. But like a photo going viral, I don't know that that's going to really happen anymore.
Like it used to be, yeah.
Right, and TikTok is really pushing that. I've seen just random people go viral for different things on TikTok. It's addicting. I try to, as much as I'm in this place, I try to stay off it because I'll just be like, well, what was I even looking for? And I'm just somewhere else, and I'm looking at somebody make, you know, chicken breast 6 different ways. 30 minutes later. Yeah, it's the most random pockets of stuff. Bro, if you saw what my search is like, it's likely going to be people lifting weights, doing jiu-jitsu, and like chicken breast recipes. Because I'm cutting right now, trying to drop weight. So it's like, how else can I make chicken breast taste good? And apparently there's an unlimited number of ways. So, I'm a student of that.
Nice.
Put that in my resume. Chicken breast connoisseur.
Are you going to compete soon?
I would love to, and that's one of the things.
Are you cutting weight just for health?
Yeah. Okay. Well, also, we have like our 10-year anniversary. Okay. I'm gonna go to the beach. I'm gonna look good. Remind my wife why she married me. We're gonna go out. Go to somewhere in the tropics and spend some time. Nice. I'm doing it for the gram. I don't know that any of those photos are gonna get posted.
That's funny.
But also health too. Heart rate. That's something that's super interesting to me. Technology in fitness is very interesting to me, right? Like this is the Aura
ring, right?
Yeah, I love that. Like now I kind of treat my own my well-being as sort of like a video game where I can look at the metrics and see how I'm doing. I track my sleep, I track my heart rate. Typically we know it's not smart to train jiu-jitsu with a ring, but I still do because I want to see my output. I want to see my heart rate. I want to see how my body is doing, and then also knowing how hard to go. Yes, I can also follow the 4-day weight.
Take it easy today, yeah. Tells you, yeah.
But I like having the numbers. And you were talking about the immune system. That would happen. Like I'd overtrain. I would be like sick. I'd have like a cold the next day. And I was like, I didn't get enough sleep, or I trained too hard. Yeah. So I love that stuff too.
Yeah, TACFIT's been saying these things right since
now people are listening.
Yeah, and all of fitness is going in this direction, which is cool, but it's crazy that TACFIT's still ahead of everything. It still has all the right, it's crazy. Yep. It really blows my mind.
Yeah, excited for the app to come out. That's going to be great too.
End of June, I believe. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, I hope you come back soon.
Absolutely.
And hope I can go visit you one day too, and that side of Florida.
Yes, sir.
It's really beautiful out there. Like Clearwater area. It's beautiful.
Great sun, great beaches.
Turquoise beaches.
Yeah.
And I remember back in the day we went for, I don't know what it was for, but there's a lot of great beaches.
Yeah, it's a great spring break destination, but it's calm.
Yeah.
People got more room for a house, not stacked on top of each other, not traffic. There's no, what is the freeway? The one you take to
the 405.
You already knew.
What was it? Were they saying the Trafficageddon? What was it?
Carmageddon.
Carmageddon.
Yeah, there was 2 of those.
Right, when they were doing construction on the 405.
Yeah, there's none of that stuff. So like I lost like 18 hours of my life a week in traffic between like Studio City and Marina Del Rey. I was like, nah, for me, bro.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah. So good. Life is good in Florida.
Life is good.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. So hopefully we see each other soon. And
Absolutely.
Thank you for, taking the time. I'm glad you're here in town.
Thanks for having me.
And your family, man. Anytime you're,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Yes, sir.
And we'll be in touch.
Awesome.
Talk soon. Thank you. Thank you. How can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Ferocious Cheese.
Ferocious Cheese.
One word.
Thank you, brother.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Take
Thank
care.
you.